Timothy Leary grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. Is that where you grew up?
I spent my first 18 years in a very small town in western Massachusetts.
College? Where?
I went to about 7 colleges. Actually, I was expelled from several of them. I went to West Point for 2 years. I went to a Jesuit school. I got my master's degree from Washington State University in Pullman.
Right.
And then my doctorate in psychology at UC Berkeley.
Berkeley. Expelled from where? How, as you say several. Expelled for what reason, may I ask?
Well, I was expelled from the University of Alabama for spending the night in the girls' dormitory. Now, you're going to ruin my reputation.
No, go ahead, Timothy. I want to know. No.
You're going to go for the real inside story.
No, you say expelled. Go ahead, like you several. But what expelled? What else? For what other reasons? You said one for girls?
I was expelled from a Jesuit school called Holy Cross College for gambling, playing poker, blackjack late at night during a religious retreat with a son of an Italian mafia guy from New York. That got me. They graduated me right there.
You've been outspoken ever since you were a kid, then, really. Timothy Leary's always been his own person, own mind, own spoken person.
Yes, I lived a very, well, I would say a lonely childhood. It was a very isolated little town, and I didn't see much of the sophisticated world, so I lived as a child an extraordinary life. I read books all the time, and I dreamed dreams of doing heroic things to help the human race, and my model, my idol, was a philosopher named Socrates, and I based my entire life on Socrates.
So that's where Timothy Leary...
He's the guy that caused all the trouble for me. His motto was, he said that the aim of human life, Kippy, was to know thyself. Now this was very subversive, because the very idea of someone saying, you don't have a self, you're a serf, you're a slave, he was inventing the idea of individuality, and that you could do something about your life. Now, as soon as I studied the books about Socrates, I realized that this is a dangerous profession, because you're teaching people to question authority. I realized that this job, which I was going to undertake, the corrupting of the minds of youth, it paid poorly. It could get you in serious difficulty with the authorities, and in the case of Socrates, it got him hemlocked. But I've enjoyed this profession, and in the last 70 years in America, it's been a wonderful time.
It has?
For a dissident philosopher, because so much change has happened that
do you think the kids today know thyself? There's a lot of them they don't have identifications of their own self. They don't know who they are. They just follow the leaders.
Ain't it the truth? It's been that way.
Am I right?
It's been that way for most human beings throughout most human history.
Right.
At certain times in human history, culture, when everything's favorable, you know what's called a renaissance. Now, they had one in Athens, because Athens was protected by geography from the big empires.
Right.
There's another great renaissance around Venice and in northern Italy. And a renaissance preaches the basic religion of humanism.
Right.
Renaissance period, we had one in the 60s here, and the key to it was humanism. He said, the aim of individual life is to know yourself and to treat each other as human beings. And this flies in direct opposition to every fundamentalist religion, to every political party where you're supposed to work for God or for the state. So, and what happens in a renaissance, we rediscover the wonderful potential of the inner human being.
Right.
It becomes, the clothes tend to come off because there's more human contact, and beauty and erotic activity tends to be more active at this period. So in the 60s we had a classic renaissance, which ended in 1980 when the repression of Reagan and Bush came out. We all know that's modern history.
Right. Berkeley. Went to Berkeley.
I went there for 4 years, and I taught.
And you taught?
For about 4 years at Berkeley, yeah.
Philosophy?
Psychology.
Psychology. But that's really philosophy, too, isn't it, really?
Yes,
Psychology, philosophy.
Yeah,
you know,
of course,
to be a good psychiatrist, or, you know, go ahead.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Skippy.
So what do you think? You were there in the 60s, or was it the 60s you were there? When were you there?
No, I was a graduate student at Berkeley from 1946.
40s, really?
To 50.
Okay.
And I taught around Berkeley and did research there as a faculty member and a researcher for about 9 years. I left Berkeley basically to go to Harvard in 1959.
You went to Harvard. For how long?
As a teacher. As a faculty member.
Faculty member. When did this all begin for Timothy Leary, this creating of LSD? When did all of that started?
Well, I didn't create LSD.
Well, you did something about it. They all
yes,
think you are the creator, but you're not. I know you're not. An experiment.
I don't know anything about chemistry at all.
Yeah. But
I'm now involved in computers, and I can hardly turn my own computer on. I try to use these tools as ways of increasing intelligence and getting to operate your mind and your brain. To be intelligent, to know thyself, you have to learn how to operate your mind and your brain. And there's
we don't use it enough. People use it just this much.
Yeah.
And there's a lot there. Tell me more about that.
Well, of course, most schools do not teach young people to think for themselves. The idea is most schools indoctrinate to train you to play your part in a factory society, or you're going to be a lawyer and you'll be a doctor, and you've got to be a crook, because the cops, we have to have cops and crooks, so there are all these roles that are being taught in schools. But rarely, there are a lot of good teachers out there, and I'm sure...
Are there really, Timothy?
There are many teachers out there, particularly now, people that went through the 60s when thinking for yourself was popular and almost authorized.
Yes.
There are a lot of good teachers out there that are doing their best to encourage and stimulate their students to think for themselves. But there's 60s kids that are now...
That's what I have always thought for myself ever since I was a kid.
That's why I always liked you.
I'm an individual. I'm me.
There ain't nobody like Skippy Lowe.
No, but I'm just saying, Timothy, I've always been me.
That's why I've always liked you, Skippy.
Did you? Is that right? So tell me more about the LSD. What happened there? You started something there with that creation. A lot of pot and everything else.
I didn't start anything. The use of certain botanical, vegetable substances was psychotropic to activate the brain. That's been going on for thousands of years.
It has been.
Socrates and that whole group of Plato and the Eleusinian mysteries, they were using marijuana, hashish, and opium. The use of drugs or vegetables to activate your brain, to open up new circuits of your brain, that's called shamanism. And many say that most of the religions and much of the philosophy has come from groups. Like the group around Socrates.
Socrates, yes.
At Harvard University, for example, there's been a long tradition, honorable tradition,
really, of
the use of psychedelic drugs.
At Harvard?
Ralph Waldo Emerson started what was called American Transcendentalism, flying in the face of the Puritan ethic in Boston. Emerson was banned from Harvard and Boston for about 30 years, longer than I was.
Really?
Yeah, and then at the same time, there was an active use of psychoactive drugs by British poets. Then William James, who founded the psychology department at Harvard, wrote a book called The Varieties of Religious Experience, in which he talked about his experiences with hashish and nitrous oxide.
Right.
So when I went there, I was joining a long club of honorable and very distinguished philosophers who believed in transcendence, or basically they were humanists, as opposed to the engineer tradition of MIT or the puritanical fundamentalist tradition of Christianity.
Right. But in 1970, 5 years, they gave you 5 years prison for a little abuse of marijuana.
I didn't.
Is it just for little marijuana? 5 years. Well, they said you for
it was more than 5.
It was?
I was sentenced to both federal and state prison for, could have totaled 30 years.
30, but you didn't spend 30 years.
Well, I escaped after 9 months.
You did?
You didn't know that? Yeah.
No, I didn't know. What do you mean you escaped?
I trained very carefully, and I climbed a wire and climbed a wall, and I was met by a guerrilla outlaw group, and I got political asylum in Algeria. And
how long were you in Algeria?
About 9 months. I was there with the Black Panthers, and then I went to Switzerland.
With the Black Panthers?
You haven't read my book, have you?
Not really, no, I haven't. Not your book.
I've written several unauthorized autobiographies.
Right. I'm not too familiar with your book.
Yeah, so I got one called Flashbacks. You can get it in the bookstores right now. It's got the whole sordid story there, and that's being made into a movie now by Interscope. A brilliant young man named Bima Stagg, who's writing a script about my life.
So tell me more about being with the Black Panther in Algeria, and then from there you went to, back to prison? Did you go back to prison?
I had to escape from, actually, Algeria, because Algeria was a socialist fundamentalist Islamic country, and that's no barrel of laughs.
No, I know it isn't.
Communism and Islamic fundamentalism.
Right.
I literally had to escape. I spent some time in Switzerland, and then I was captured by the DEA.
Where, in Switzerland?
No, in Afghanistan, at the airport, and brought back, and I did about 3.5. Altogether, I did 4.5 years in prison for the possession of 2 roaches of marijuana.
4.5 years. So it really turned your life around, didn't it? From a professor in Harvard and running, escaping. What did you do the 4.5 years in prison? Timothy Leary. What did Timothy Leary actually thought about? What did you do?
Well, I tell you, I used that time wisely. I enjoyed it. Now, I'm not advocating...
Did you enjoy it?
I'm not advocating prison, boys and girls, but I found it interesting and an educational experience for me to be a psychologist at the very bottom of the prison system, because after I escaped, they were really angry at me, and they put me at the bottom, and I got a view of society. You know, when you get down to the bottom, you really see how the police state operates. Also, I love being in prison because I didn't have to pay the rent. I didn't have to answer the telephone. I didn't have to produce erections, you know, on a regular basis. It was just a joke.
Right, right. I know.
And when I was in solitary confinement, I liked that best because, you know why?
Why?
My roommate was a very funny guy. Kept me entertained all the time.
Was he?
Yeah.
Is he still there, or is he out now?
That's me, my mirror.
Your roommate.
Yeah.
Oh, you. I see your mirror. Okay,
That's the
your
joke.
mirror. I
That's the
know
joke.
the mirror. You're a funny man. You know that?
Thank you.
You're actually doing a stand-up comedy too, kind of a thing.
No, I don't do stand-up.
Well,
I give my college lecture, but I give it
in comedy, in comedy flair.
No. I make fun of authority. I make fun of. I'm very irreverent.
That's comedy. That's fun.
Yes, but I'm not a stand-up.
No, I meant
I don't tell dick jokes, you know. And
no, we don't understand that.
Can I say dick on this program?
Yes, of course you can. But
no,
Timothy, I understand that.
Yeah, I don't do that kind of stand-up. I try to mercilessly make fun of Christianity and Islam and politicians. That's just part of my job as a dissident philosopher.
What happened after you got out of prison, the day you arrived out of prison? First of all, what prison were you in? At which one?
I was in 49 jails and prisons in four continents, so they moved me around a lot, yeah.
They really
I came
moved you
after
around.
my release. I was released from California when Jerry Brown became governor, and I was released from federal prison after Reagan was thrown out.
Right.
I'm sorry, Nixon, 1976. And when I came to Hollywood, and I've been involved in communication and computers and electronics and...
Immediately, is this what ran through your mind in jail? Were you preparing for this when you got out, the computers?
Yes, I'm a great follower of a man named Marshall McLuhan, who wrote those wonderful books about communication. And he said that if you want to change a culture, if you want to change yourself, if you want to change religion, change the medium, the mode of communication. And he said that Gutenberg created Protestantism when he had the mass assemble book that everybody could read. And now the new form of communication is electronic. So I'm a fanatic about electronics. My brain...
Electronic brain you're into. Aren't you in electronic brains experiments right now you're into?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, maybe we should... I don't give lectures anymore, and
okay.
The next two Monday nights at EZTV.
EZT on Santa Monica Boulevard.
Santa Monica Boulevard, right?
I know it. Yes, off the La Cienega, right.
And it's in Santa Monica Boulevard between La Cienega and San Vicente.
That's in West Hollywood.
We're having a wonderful time because we're each Monday night we invite geniuses, wizards in this new field of electronic multimedia. And we're learning how to produce trance states by using computer-generated images and electronic patterns. Matter of fact, why don't we put on this little tape now to show you?
You have a tape right now you brought.
This is a commercial, like a commercial you see on TV, and we're at the message from the product.
Right.
The message from the sponsor is, learn how to use your eyeballs and operate your brain. So let's run the tape.
Use your eyeballs and...
Yeah, learn how to use your eyeballs.
Yeah. Interesting. Let's see it. Okay. What is that about?
See, the eye, that's going to, in a dark room, this could, indeed, when we do it in a dark room at EZTV, it produces a mild trance state. And then my voice comes over it, and I'm saying, the eyes are the windows of your brain. Who controls your eyes, controls and programs your brain.
Right.
And all eyes love to be illuminated. Eyes love dazzle, eyes love diamonds, glitter. Eyes today and brains love electrons. Who controls your screen controls your brain. We're developing methods for the individual, the kid in the third world, or the kid in the inner city school learns how to control what's on her screen. Operate your brain, program your own brain. Use the methods of modern advertising, trailers and commercials to put your own message on your brain.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll be programmed by the wizards who control commercials on your television set.
Is this relaxing when people see this?
Well, we're trying to jumble you and scramble your brain. See, you're basically, my brain, most brains love to be jumbled with electrons.
Do they really?
Oh, sure. It's been known.
Stimulate them? Is that stimulation?
There's been a rumor for centuries that some guy, tough male macho, dazzle the diamond in some young girl's eyes.
Right.
She'll wash his socks forever because diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Absolutely.
Wrong. Diamonds give power to those people who know how to use them. And now electrons. So we're teaching people, we're developing new computer programs, running off CD-ROM, running off Nintendos.
Where do you get this idea from?
It's all out there. It's all out there.
It is out there?
Yeah.
But
these are not my ideas.
What sort of persons attract to Timothy Leary? What sort of person attracts to intelligent people, I know. People with minds and they want to be their own persons. But what sort of persons?
Well, people, I can tell you people who do not like me are those people who are deeply committed to a religious orthodoxy or to a fundamentalist cause.
Right.
Open-minded people like me. People that, troublemakers, bohemians, artists.
Would you consider yourself a bohemian?
Well, it's one phrase. I'm a hippie, I'm a beatnik, I'm a bohemian. I'm basically an outsider. I'm a dissenting philosopher, and there's always a good market for a good audience because basically a lot of people out there want to be turned on and want to learn how to operate their brains.
What has been the biggest lesson for Timothy Leary in your life?
Well, it's kind of foolish to be, I don't pretend to be a wise person.
I understand that.
I raise questions. I don't give answers. That's what Socrates told me.
Right.
But I will give you an answer here. We're playing the ping-pong game of an interview.
Right.
Let me see. The best tip I could give anyone, if you want to grow and learn how to become smarter, and enjoy life more, and remain young, hang out with people that are smarter than you are, and they can teach you something about your mind and your brain. And I'm proud to say that I hang out, my friends, every week. When I look at my calendar, my appointment book, and I see the people that I hang out with.
Who sort of some of the people? Come on.
Well, Sunday, for example, at my house in Beverly Hills, I had a turkey roast. I didn't do anything about the turkey. For 70 members of Alcor. Alcor is an organization who believe people that are going to have their bodies or their brains frozen. You heard about
Of course.
I'm a member of
I might be one of them. Go ahead.
We had 65 or 70 people in my home. We plan to meet each other maybe in 20 or 30 or 40 years because we're going to be brought back by
Is that the tag?
Yeah, that's the tag. That tells doctors, do not autopsy me, freeze me.
Really?
It says freeze the occupant. To give an example, now these people, these 60 people, by definition, they think for themselves, right?
Right.
I
like that.
They're mavericks, and they're smart because you got to be smart. You have to understand the physics and the biology and the memory. So they're smart people. Monday nights every Monday night I go to Easy TV, and we're assembling Easy TV.
What do you mean by assembly? You gather people around.
People come in, they buy a ticket, and they come in. But we're assembling crew. For example, there's a play called Timothy and Charlie. It's about me and Charlie Manson. It was written by Tim Reel, and they do incredible audio visuals. So they perform. What we're doing, Skippy, is we're merging at Easy TV every Monday night the power of electrons to create an environment. And then out of the environment, the lecturer comes, or the actors in the play suddenly jump out of the screen-like environment. We're developing experiments in what's called virtual reality.
Right.
And these young people I'm the luckiest, really, the man in the world. Every week I meet new people that are on that frontier of electronic communication and consciousness expansion. And intelligence increased.
What's been the hardest for Timothy Leary? What's been the hardest for you?
Well, I suffer, as we all do, about the incredible poverty and hunger and violence and military power. I mean, just when you read the Hindus are fighting the Muslims,
right,
and the Catholics are fighting the Protestants in Belfast. The stupidity and the ignorance and the control of the military and the religious people, that pains me very much, and as I think it does most of us out there.
You're very concerned, aren't you, Timothy? You've been concerned. I'm looking at you right now. You're very concerned what's out there. But are we doing the right thing right now with our military forces?
Who's we?
Well, the military force is
keep me
going
out of
to,
that, yeah.
You don't want to be in that. Okay, military forces, the Americas. Are we doing the right thing to I know we should help them. It's a terrible thing.
See, I'm not an expert on that, but basically I think, I don't like the idea of having military people doing that because it's glorifying military.
Absolutely.
And anything that glorifies the military, you're going to pay for that.
Right.
You're going to pay for that in your budget. You're going to pay for that in bloodshed. So I've been to West Point. Skippy, I was actually born at West Point.
Were you really
My
West
father
Point?
was an Army officer. I was born at West Point.
Is that one of the schools you got kicked out of?
And I got kicked out of. No, I actually resigned from West Point.
You resigned?
I know the military mind very well, and the military mind is not to be trusted.
I do too. I used to entertain 10, 15 years of my life all over the world, Vietnam and everything. And I know the military, and I don't agree us military being there.
Hardliners, the hardliners in America, and the hardliners in Russia, and the hardliners in Somalia, they all want to take our wealth and use it on weapons. So.
Some of your books. Tell me some of your books. And I have not read. I got to be honest with you. How many books have you got out?
It's around 30, 35.
35?
Yeah.
Really? What's the most popular of Timothy Leary?
Flashbacks.
The Mirror? Flashbacks?
Flashbacks. Yeah.
How about The Mirror? The Mirror.
Mind Mirror was a computer game.
Tell me about the Mind Mirror.
Well, I've been working for the last 10 years on programs that allow the person to turn the computer screen into like a mind phone.
Right.
And to put your thoughts there. 5 or 6 years ago, you could only do this with words, alphanumerics, but now you can use CD-ROM and graphics. So these new image processors and computers are tools to learn how to operate your brain and how to communicate more clearly and become smarter.
Timothy Leary, married? You have children?
At the present time, I've been married 7.5 times.
7.5 times?
3/4 times. I have an addiction problem, Skippy. I'm addicted to marriage. I'm addicted to marriage. I just love being married.
Okay, you and Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney did too.
Yeah, and the first 2 or 3, 4 years it's wonderful, but then you realize that you're dependent on it, and that and then I have. I'm proud to say that I have been lucky enough to have as my living companions some of the smartest, most beautiful women in the world, and every good thing that has come from me I owe to my...
Barbara. Her name is Barbara?
Barbara.
Yeah, I met her in Rome years ago. She used to live in Rome.
She was an actress and a model there, yeah.
She was.
Yeah,
I didn't know that at the time, but beautiful lady, very bright.
Very intelligent, yeah, and elegant.
You like to be around intelligent, brilliant people. Do you ever be around dumb people sometimes, Timothy? Don't look at me now. Have you ever been around people? How do you handle that? How do
yes. I try to leave a trail of fun and joy. Yeah, we all, as we go through life, you meet a lot of people that are not necessarily brain surgeons, but I try in any interaction to leave a little trail of sunshine or, a little joke or something, because I basically believe in humanity.
Yes.
I believe in the human potential, and my life is about awakening or encouraging people to develop their potential, and it's a
Do you write all night, Timothy, at night? It seems like you're a writer.
I'm a late night person.
Yeah, it seems like it to me. Because I think you read a lot. You read a lot.
Less and less.
Everything?
I don't read books as much anymore. I read magazines, and I do a lot of computer stuff.
Is that important for us to know what's out there in the world today? Or sometimes it confuses me when I turn the TV on and listen to the news. It's upsetting.
Yeah, it's sad.
Sad. I can't sleep at night sometimes. That's why I don't want to listen to the news late night. How do we handle that? How do we handle that?
Well, see, when people ask me questions like that, my answer is think for yourself.
Okay.
Figure it out yourself. Think for yourself, because
I
each
don't want to
person
listen
is
to
different.
it. Oh, I see. I see. I see.
And you have to experiment with yourself and listen to other people's ideas, but you have to do it yourself.
I see.
Think for yourself.
Timothy Leary, what makes Timothy Leary happy? What does he? Are you a happy person?
I think I'm one of the happiest people who've ever lived.
Really?
Yes.
Even throughout this whole... Do you have any regrets in your life right now, Timothy?
Yes, that's a logical question. I regret the fact that I moved around so much and being in prison and being so controversial. It was very hard on my children, and it was very hard on one of my marriages, because at one point Richard Nixon called me the most dangerous man in America, and I was being stopped and chased by the police everywhere I went they were just, well,
right.
my basic crime was I was abusing the First Amendment by by talking too much.
I know, I understand.
But
they don't like us to think for ourselves.
Yeah,
when they start, we think for ourselves, we're dangerous.
It was very hard, to answer your question, on my children, to have their father, such a hated person. My son, when he went to high school, was actually beat up by other kids because he was my son.
Yes.
And this takes a tremendous, of course, still, I'm a middle-class American, so it's not as bad as it is for most children in the world, but still, I regret that my kind of life was hard on the people that were closest to me, and because family and friendship are the basic things.
How is he handling it today, your son?
They're doing fine. They're doing fine.
They're going to school?
I've got 5 grandchildren, and I'm in
Really?
touch with them all the time, and they go up and down. And there's not as much enmity. As a matter of fact, people are not, the government isn't going around, chasing me now, I hope.
Yeah.
But things are,
Is Timothy
it's
Leary...
going to be a great 1990s. I'll tell you a little story that was told to me. It's a time to rejoice, because when you think about it, there are a lot of bad things happening, but we have a president,
Right.
a vice president, and 2 dynamic, strong first ladies,
Right.
all of whom are younger than old farts like Bob Dylan and Mick Jagger. Isn't that something? It's a whole new young generation.
Isn't it great?
Which is post-World War II, and it's the 60s kids, and
So you like that?
I don't, I'm not claiming that Clinton's going to be a great politician, because it's a hopeless job, but the spirit of hope that Clinton and Bush, and there is a, all around the world, there's
You
a
sense
sense
that. I do too.
It's Kennedy, for example, when Kennedy was elected in the 60s, he gave us hope too. Actually, Kennedy was not a very good president.
Yes.
But still, the fact he was young and jacky, and it gave us a sense of hope and vigor and courage. And
he might bring Dylan to the White House to play for him.
Dylan?
I like Dylan. Don't you like Dylan? Bob Dylan. Bob
no,
Dylan.
Jimmy
I know.
Carter did that.
Yeah.
The rumor is that that they might bring the Grateful Dead. No, they're not going to bring Dylan. I don't think.
No.
So.
Tell me about Timothy Leary's book and life story and movies. What's going to happen? Are they going to be doing that of Timothy Leary?
I don't know.
Who would you like to see do your life story,
that's
Timothy?
that's almost like a I don't think about it. I don't think about that. I'd like Grace Jones to play me. How about Grace Jones?